Experts by experience. Real conversations, real people, real stories.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of our Experts by Experience podcast. We have a returning guest with us here today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, my name is Noel Moran from Noel Yoga Wellness and Training, and lovely to be here again and speak to you, Nick.
Lovely to have you, Noel. Okay, so we've been having a lot of different conversations over the past couple of episodes about different areas of your expertise. Today we're going to focus on masculinity. So something that I don't know a huge amount about. So maybe you can we can use the next 22 minutes to educate me about this. So we're going to start with kind of your views and perception on masculinity. So what does that word mean to you?
I think it's an interesting word because it is a word that's out there, but I never really hear men referring to themselves kind of within that way, or using the word masculinity. But when I think of like criminal justice side of things and prison, there's a certain appearance for people. There's a certain keeping yourself fit, because like how people say train outside, because I go, I've done many years in the gym inside and I've done many years in the gym outside. It's a completely different ballgame, because I think within prison, it's also survival. You have to take care of yourself. You have to be physically and mentally fit. So when I think about yoga though, that's where probably masculinity kind of kicks in a little bit, because I've delivered over 4,000 hours of teaching when I was in prison. And you'd often have these guys come into the class and I try and encourage them in, and they're like, yoga, no, it's not for us, it's for women. It's that whole perception and stereotype that kind of yoga is just for women. And so when I kind of educate them on it, that actually it was men who created yoga from the kind of eastern side of the world. And I kind of said, just come along and try my practice, try a class and kind of see what you think, because especially if it's the fitter lads and that as well, I kind of step it up a notch. So they're getting a really good kind of physical workout, and it kind of blows them away afterwards, because they're coming back afterwards like, wow, I never thought it was going to be kind of this intense. It's harder than the gym. Plus they realize then that they're getting that kind of mental state. And I think with masculinity, ego kicks in a lot as well. You have these guys kind of coming into these classes and they have that kind of whole mask on and ego that they have to present in a certain way. And that's probably trauma related as well. It's probably people that's gone through various different things. And when you're in prison, you have that defense mechanism up. But I really encourage people to kind of just check that ego at the door, take your mask off and kind of be yourself. But to do that, we need to create a safe space.
Absolutely. I mean, you said a lot there about different ways in which masculinity shows up in prison. And we do talk about this more and more, I would say, than maybe we did 5-10 years ago, right? We're talking a lot more about gender. We're talking about like how it affects people to have the pressures of masculinity. Do you feel like there was a lot of pressure on masculinity in prison?
I don't think so much kind of from a pressure standpoint, because as I said, it's not a word that I've never really heard kind of men talk about or kind of men use. But then on the other side, as I said, about that kind of ego, it tends to kind of kick in, and having a certain persona over people as well. But when you really speak to people, like people are people, whether you're male, whether you're female, I think it's all around the space that we can create with them people, the more safety that we can create, the more trust that we can build. And I think kind of with myself as well, in terms of what I do, I build a lot of peer support. So when I'm speaking with people, I'm speaking to them as a professional, but I'm also connecting with them through that lived experience as well, which I think is really powerful. And like, I'm not your stereotypical looking yoga teacher. And people just never ever, you'd never think, like, if you was to say, what's your profession? What do you do? Even though yoga is a very kind of small percentage of my business, but my business stemmed from yoga. And I had so many people kind of, even with myself, what, you, a yoga teacher? Even my family, what, you're doing yoga? And yes, I am. And what? because what that did for me, it allowed me to kind of check my own ego and actually try something that was completely outside of the box. And as a result of that, it took me through a prison sentence where I managed to be able to free my mind and really just unlock my highest potential and follow my dreams and go off, put my business plan together whilst I was inside, and to be able to get out and to be able to achieve what I wanted to achieve. But maybe had I kept that mask on and kept that ego on and kept that persona and that kind of perception of turning away from different things that you think, oh, that's not necessarily for men, then I don't think I would have achieved what I'm achieving today.
Absolutely. You miss out on so much, don't you, when you think about things in like a binary way of like, this is for me or this isn't for me. Think about how much you miss out on, there's so much opportunity you say no to. How did you first come across like interacting with yoga as well? Were you resistant at the start?
It was weird for me because yoga come to me from having a dream. So I had this weird dream one night that I was doing this kind of vigorous flowing yoga sequence. I've never even seen a yoga practice in my life. I didn't know what yoga was. I got brought up doing boxing, so it was a completely different end of the scale. But when I started to read the mental benefits of it and the physical benefits, I was like, actually, hold on a minute. This is something that might actually benefit me, especially going through such a difficult time kind of within prison. And I just remember that very first practice. It was like just hitting a switch in my mind where everything just really comes slowing right down. And that's what really got me hooked. And in terms of, there's a lot of stereotypes around men not being able to really kind of articulate ourselves in terms of our emotions. There's talks that say that men only have a 5,000 word count in a day, where women have a 15,000 word count. So it's no wonder when I'm delivering training, and by the time I get to the end of the day, I'm just, I can't talk anymore. I don't want to speak to anyone.
I've never heard that before.
I don't know how true it is, but I have heard it. But I think with that side of it, though, like I've often seen men who are really closed and really kind of disengaging, but masculinity may play a part in that as well, because they've probably been brought up in a way that real men don't cry. You don't talk about this stuff and you don't present yourself. But I've worked with kind of probably the most serious kind of biggest gang members in the country, and we've had real life conversations. We've talked about stress, we've talked about trauma, we've talked about anxiety, depression, real life things that happens to all of us within society. And these guys not just talking to me, but talking to each other about it as well, which I think is a really powerful thing to do. And again, it comes back to that space that we can create for people, a space that they feel safe, that they can actually open up. And I did a listener role within prison for over 10 years. And I think that was one of the hardest jobs I've ever done, but one of the most rewarding jobs as well, because you're having these confidential conversations with these guys and they're telling you real stuff that's happened to them. And they've probably never disclosed that to anybody else kind of within their lives as well. And as the saying goes, talking is one of the best policies. And I just really encourage men, when we are struggling, it's finding that trusted person that we can open up and we can talk about it. Because when we're talking about stuff, we're releasing it. We're not holding that tension in.
Absolutely. That's what we often talk about when we think about how masculinity or the pressures on men to be, not vulnerable. That's something we often think about, is there's so many societal pressures on, men can't be weak, men can't be vulnerable, men can't hold complex emotions, and those are also damaging to men because of course they do. Of course they experience those things. And when we say men can't experience those things, where do they go? They stay inside.
Stay inside, yeah. And I found that myself as well, because doing this listener role when I was away, I was mentoring this guy for over a year and a half. I put so much energy and support into this guy. And when I think about vicarious trauma, the trauma that I received myself from mentoring this particular person, and then unfortunately he took his life one night, bless him, and he's no longer with us. And then at the same time, I had a family member who passed away outside. So kind of coming to terms with that loss and grieving. And I think that was one of the first times within prison that I found myself actually feeling really vulnerable. And I didn't really know how to express myself at the time, because there was no one really around, that trusted person to kind of speak to. And I didn't resign from my role. I just said to the kind of manager of the safe custody department, I said, I need to step down. I need to take a step back. I need to take care of myself, because if I was putting any more energy into this, it was going to really kind of deteriorate my mental health. And she said that was fine. But what really kind of disgusted me afterwards, I heard from another manager that she said I'd let the safer custody department down by standing down, where at that point, that's where I really needed support. I really needed people to actually come to me and say, how are you feeling about this? You know, you've gone through two losses, one a family member and one guy you've put so much energy into. But I think what really helped me at that point, even though I wasn't able to express myself, mindfulness and yoga was one that I think that really kind of got me through that. Because I was able to take my pain, say from a 10 down to about a 2 or a 3, and holding it at that point, then I was able to manage it. But if I could rewind time, I probably would have reached out to other people. I probably would have offloaded and tried to get that out, because I held that in at that point, which probably wasn't good for me.
Yeah, I hate that person said that. I mean, that's so the opposite of being trauma-informed, right? Protecting yourself is one of the main things that we have to do. And admitting vulnerability, saying, I'm in a really bad place right now. I'm going to look after my own capacity and my own boundaries, and I'm going to do this for myself. That should be respected.
Yeah, it should be. But I think when we think about compassion fatigue, like I'm not saying this member of staff was a bad member of staff. She was a good manager. She did her job well. But I think with prison staff, they face so much difficulties on a daily basis. The vicarious trauma, the compassion fatigue, the burnout that they're experiencing, they kind of just lose that human connection. But don't get me wrong, there has been other staff that actually have been really kind of great over the years that you can actually have these kind of conversations with as well. But then it's like, where does that conversation go? Which is a lot of worry for some people, because you can open up your heart, you can tell her how you're feeling, but if that's written down on the computer, before you know it, it turns into a risk factor. But actually, it's not a risk factor. We need a place to vent. We all need a place to talk. And kind of getting out of prison as well is kind of finding that support, and is connecting with the right network that you can kind of offload. And thankfully, today I have all of that. I've got so much good supportive people kind of within my life. If I'm having a bad day, I could ring them. They'll know by the tone of my voice in terms of just how I'm feeling. And sometimes when I speak to people, I can feel better without even speaking to them. It's just being in the presence of really positive people sometimes brings your energy up. Like you, Nick, when I'm around you as well, you bring my energy up.
No, I love that. Yeah, it's so important your surroundings, isn't it? It's so important what is kind of building your image of yourself. I can imagine when you're in the prison estate and there are things around you that are meant to oppress and make you smaller and make you more like easily organized, that it's going to reinforce these harmful ideas of, you should be not vulnerable, or you shouldn't have anger outbursts or anything like this. It makes you smaller.
Yeah. And we compress it more and more and more. And then when you see these behaviors of people then just blowing a fuse, because it's like that air in the tire. You put too much air into it, it's going to explode. And prisons are like that as well, because they're really traumatic places. And kind of, I can speak for other people's journey, but I'm going to speak for my own. Like within that 15 years, like you're seeing death, you're seeing self-harm, you're seeing drug use, you're seeing bullying, you're seeing violence pretty much on a kind of daily basis. So these are places that are supposed to be rehabilitative, but you're coming from a normal life, potentially kind of from the streets, into that closed environment and expected to come out a better person. I just don't see how that works in terms of kind of how, if people are not able to kind of really kind of express themselves and do stuff that finds meaning for them as well, which I don't think that we have a lot within prisons.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding meaning, finding connection with each other. Do you think, when you think about your time in prison, do you think you made some really meaningful, you've spoken about a few of them, but you made some really meaningful connections with other men, right? How important was that?
I think it's really important. I haven't just made really meaningful connections with the other men, also with staff as well, who I'm still connected with today. I still do business with now in terms of my company. But I'll speak about the men first. Like there's two guys in particular that we've served a really long time with. We've gone through so much hardships together in terms of loss, and in terms of what I've experienced, they've experienced the same thing, because we've been with each other going through that. and they got out kind of around the same time as me as well. And it's lovely to see us all, like, you know, we've been in that negative situation, but now we can go to a fair, or we can go down to the beach, or we can just do really nice things together and kind of reflect upon our journey as well. Like, you know, how happy we are to kind of be here as well. And no matter how difficult things do get for you on the outside, you've been through worst kind of on the inside. And it's really lovely from the staff perspective as well, because I've always, like, since I've been inside, I've been planning my business. I already come up with my brand and everything whilst I was in there. And just talking to the governors and talking to senior managers and said, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do when I get out. And then once I've got out, I've connected with them. And some of the staff, then I've gone in and I've started delivering training. I've started doing kind of speaking and stuff like that. And some of them are really supportive and really kind of good kind of within my network. And even I think like just my WhatsApp, like, you know, I'd often WhatsApp potential governors and stuff around the prison. I think I never thought there'd be a day that I'd be sitting there at night time just messaging a governor. And it's completely fine, because these governors share the same mission, they share the same values, and they really want to make that difference within the system as well.
Yeah, and it's about connection, right? The bottom line is, like you said, human to human. It's about connecting. Yeah. Now, how do you feel like your ideas about like what a man should be, how have they evolved? Like, do they look different now to what they looked like when you were younger?
Definitely 100%, because when I was younger, I got brought up doing boxing, and there was never a thing that, oh, if you got a problem, you talk about it, you express yourself, or you just kind of get on with it. You go through the motions. But even like when I think about men now, like last night, for example, I was in the spa and I was sitting in a jacuzzi relaxing. And this guy, like,
I thought you meant boxing spa. I was
not boxing spa. And I was just relaxing in the jacuzzi, and this guy, this big kind of lump of a guy, he's come into the spa, into the jacuzzi, and he sat down next to me. And like I'm quite sociable anyway, so I just said, "You're right, mate. How's it going?" And he says, "Oh, not too bad. It's been a stressful few days." And I've never even met this guy. And like obviously within my role now, I've connected. What do you mean a stressful few days? I said, "Oh, do you want to share? Do you want to talk about it?" Like, and he just started offloading. Like, never met this guy. He's talking at me for about 15 minutes, and I didn't mind, you know, because I knew that obviously I didn't go into what was happening with him, but just in terms of how he was feeling and what was going on. And that was a good vent for him, just to be able to kind of relax. And after he vented, he just kind of put his legs up and he just kind of relaxed. And I just thought, you know what? I haven't even done nothing here. I've just listened to this guy for 15 minutes and now he's just chilled out and he's relaxed. And that's just something that you'd never see back in the day. Someone's not just going to get into the jacuzzi and just spill their heart with you. So that's the differences as an example that I think.
It's so different. And it sounds like your perception of yourself as well has changed. So you're like now the person who's asking those questions, even though you weren't necessarily given the start in life that encouraged you to do that.
No, because back in the day, if someone got in the spa and said, "Oh, I've had a stressful few days," I probably wouldn't think nothing of it. I'd say, "Oh, yeah, so have I." And that would be it, or change the conversation or talk about something else. You wouldn't probe, you wouldn't go into, "Oh, what do you mean a stressful few days?" You wouldn't necessarily have that kind of emotional intelligence to kind of just have that understanding and empathy to see what's going on with the other person. And I find it quite a lot, because especially like when if I'm in the gym or if I'm chatting with guys, they're quite expressive and they're quite open about talking about things. And I think that's really good. That's how times have changed, because there's a lot more out there as well about men's mental health and things like that as well. And I think the more that guys can just get on that and just kind of share how they're feeling, their stories, they'll be better people for it.
Yeah. Do you feel like that? What would you like to see happen in the world around men's mental health as well? Obviously, we want it to improve. We don't want such horrific figures, but is there anything that society should be doing to help men's mental health?
I think we need to focus on individual people's needs, because if we think about criminal justice, it's very genetic. It's not focusing on a need. It's just like if you've got a risk assessment or you've got a course to do, that's it. You do that course, it's going to reduce your risk from high to medium. You do that, it's going to reduce your medium to low, or whatever it is. And it's not meaningful to the person. But actually, if we say to somebody, "Tell me about what brings you meaning. Tell me what you would actually, what would you need to make you feel better?" Because I can come up with loads of ideas, but actually it's different strokes for different folks. So it's about just putting yourself out there. And what I say is like, think of 10 things that you would like to do within your life, and then write them down. And then out of that 10 things, pick 2 that you're going to achieve in the next 2 weeks, and do that and try that within the next 2 weeks. And if you don't like it and you think, do you know what, that's not necessary for me, that's completely fine. You're not failing. You've tried. Then go back to your list, pick another 2 things. And before you know it, you've found something really meaningful for you, because nobody else can tell you. The top doctor in the world can say, okay, you do this, it's going to make you feel better, because they don't know how you feel within your mind. They don't know how you feel within your body. The only person that knows that is yourself.
Yeah. And moving around like being experimental with it, I love. We're not going to find it straight away. Like what you said, what works for you might not work for me, but I think life is brief and long at the same time. And you have to take chances, right? We got to be a little bit risky and go, okay, I'm going to try this thing, even if it might not work for me, because the outcome could be brilliant. I could be in a better place.
And I think probably just to kind of square it off as well, I think expectations is a big part of it as well, because the more that we put these expectations on ourselves to achieve something, and especially if we're put in a period of time and we don't achieve it, we feel that we've let ourselves down. So what I do is I just drop the ego, I drop the expectation. I'll try that for 2 weeks. If I like it, I'll continue. If I don't like it, I'll go and do something else. That's completely fine. Like me with yoga, for instance, I tried yoga. I loved it. I continued it, and I've created a business out of it. So whatever it is that you should be doing out there, get off your backside and do it, because it's not going to come to you. You've got to go out and find it.
Yeah, it's a good round ending for us now. I guess maybe let's just end our conversation today with like a call for action. So like, what is your like headlines of how men can drop their guard and, not be bound by what the world says men need to be?
I think trust is a big thing. So maybe sometimes when we get caught up in our own head so much that we're not coming up with the right answers. So finding that trusted person, that person that's close to you, that you can just have that offload, but also take advice as well and ask people, what's your perspective of what's going on with me? Because when we get other perspectives, it really can help to change our perspective, especially if we've got someone that cares for us and someone that we trust. And before you know it, like all these things that you're caught up with in your head, you're thinking, actually, you're right. Actually, I was looking at that in the wrong way. But if I look at it from this point of view, then maybe I can change it and it's completely different. And listen to your body. Listen to how you're feeling. If you're feeling tense, you're feeling tight, there's things going on with you, go to the doctors, go get help as well, because not a lot of men get themselves out there and get that medical help and just get scans or get blood pressure tests and just check your health and check with your mental health and see how you're doing.
I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and a great way to end.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Experts by Experience is brought to you by Catch22. For more episodes, visit www.catch-22.org.uk. Now playing on National Prison Radio.